We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Hell yes, I get to ride the dragon.
The hell's wrong with you people?
I know Kung Fu.
Tank, you want to switch? You want to switch?
No, I'm good. I got it.
Stay down.
I could do this all day.
If you had to transform into one mythical creature and then get married to a different mythical creature.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Maximum effort.
How about a magic trick?
HR.
Not an
Call
animal.
HR. Is HR.
Somebody call HR down here. That man is playing Galaga.
See, one whole homeless dude.
No, there are multiple homeless people around, but there's one guy in particular, and I know you're not fucking homeless, dude. Welcome to the Nerds from Work, your weekly escape into the world of geeks, nerds, and apparently homeless Luigi, who is a disabled veteran. And
Regular Luigi also has a mustache. Like, having a mustache doesn't make him a homeless Luigi. I was dressing up.
Bro, you're wearing the homeless garb.
I wish.
Luigi has like the driver's cap. You have.
I definitely don't own a driver's cap. That is 100% facts. I just grabbed the only green hat I have.
And then like the tricolor, you're like.
I'm about to spit fireballs. But it's like the white overalls.
They're not really fireballs. It's just your imagination.
You're high on shrooms.
Yeah. High on shrooms.
Hey.
Makes so much sense now. Mario and Luigi were homeless crack addicts and drug addicts.
Actually, they were every plumber ever because they all do a ton of drugs, I'm pretty sure. They probably do more drugs than homeless people.
Takeaway for the night. If you don't learn anything else from the Nerds from Work tonight, check out your plumbers. Go to Angie's List, okay? Because your plumbers are all doing shrooms in your house.
That's why I eat salami.
Yeah.
No one eats a stick of salami.
Italian sandwiches, and they do shrooms.
Yeah.
That's what they do. All right, guys. I'm thirsty, so I'm gonna crack this if no one else has it.
Let's do it.
Ugh, so good. When it touches your lips, Brandon, what are you drinking?
The same thing as last week.
Mm.
I didn't finish my 6-pack from a week ago.
Oh, I thought you were about to say I didn't finish that beer.
It's the exact
yeah,
same
it's the
beer
same.
from last week.
It's
I
the
was like, man.
Juicy Sunrise.
Ooh, it's UC.
Tastes like juice.
What?
But I
Tank,
have a-
you have
I
something
have a-
alcoholic this week.
No, I don't. I'm drinking more ginger ale because I'm too lazy to go get beer from the store.
Dude, it's been 7 days.
I know, and I've left the house twice.
You drinking like normal?
That's crazy that you've only left the house twice.
That's really barely
No,
an exaggeration. Like, I've actually only left the house, like, in all honesty, I've probably left the house since last Tuesday 5 times total.
That's crazy.
And not a single one of those times could you like stop and
Nope.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
It's called commitment. You guys should look it up.
Yeah.
I have no idea. To being lazy. I just really just
Ooh, I could, but I'm not going to.
holding on to it.
You're that guy that drives right by. Like, you were in the grocery store this week, and you were just like, no, I'm good.
See, I didn't even, like, I think the only place I really went was, like, my parents' house for dinner, and, like, that's, like, the only place I even went.
Dude, you
5
had
times?
to
You ate dinner at your parents' house 5 times?
Twice. I had it Sunday night and Monday night.
When I lived with my parents, I didn't even eat there 5 times.
5 times in 1 week.
I'm trying to think of where. Oh, we went to dinner with her parents on Friday.
That's too much parent involvement. So, hey, other than eating with your parents, what'd you do this week, dude?
Dude, so I'm a little sad because a lot of the weekly animes are ending. So, like, Demon Slayer, Cheat Magician, Danmaki Season 2, the seasons all ended.
Not Vinland Saga.
But I'm pumped because My Hero comes back this month. So
Nice.
yeah, so I'm pumped to check out some My Hero.
Did you start watching My Hero?
Me? Yeah. I might have watched 2 seasons. Maybe 1 season. Because I
Oh,
feel
you
like the
started
first season,
watching
like,
Black
flew
Clover.
by. Huh?
You started watching Black Clover. Was it when you started?
I watched both.
I need to.
I watched My Hero. I watched a good bit of My Hero Academia actually.
I think there's only 2 seasons. The third season was what's starting in October.
Third season's already
Oh,
out.
then yeah.
Oh, then the
I don't know if
fourth-
I think what it is. I didn't finish the second season.
Okay.
The
Because
one where they were
the
trying to
first
get their
season
license.
ended just like randomly, like, right? Am I?
First season, yeah. The end of the first season was kind of odd, but then like second season they're getting their license,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
third season.
Oh, that's right. They're in train. They're like rookie,
competition.
like rookie
Yeah.
heroes or whatever. Yeah.
I saw where they
First
killed
season's
that guy who was like had the swords or whatever. I saw that part. He was like the murderer. He was like murdering
Oh
all-
yeah.
The psycho.
Blood
Yeah,
or
like he murdered the like exhaust calf guys.
yeah, bro. Yeah. Oh, what's that dude's
Oh, I
name?
definitely saw through that.
That was tight.
Blood. Like what's that character? Blood.
I
He was
don't
a
get
really cool
Harrison?
character.
My Hero, they go like super far in like creating new abilities that we've never seen before, or like we've seen super speed, but these guys had engines in their cabs. Like,
Yeah. No,
I
it's
was like, okay, that's tight.
Yeah.
And the one kid that goes to their school who can do tape from his elbows.
Yeah. That was, like,
so
look,
different,
random.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, why would that ever be a superpower? But then, like,
Right.
This like tests and stuff, they like actually utilize him, and you're like,
It's basically
okay,
like Spider-Man.
that's tight.
Like you.
What's up?
It's basically like Spider-Man.
Yeah, except no strength and no.
Yeah, and then like the belly button Ray guy.
He's just the bard from Campaign
He's
1,
Ooh,
Yeah.
my belly button.
Scanlan.
And it like shoots out of his belly button. You're like, come on, like this is the worst.
Or like the guy who's only strong if he eats sugar. So he's like he bakes in his free time because it's like it's just like sugary treats.
Yeah. But I do like the main character. What is his name? Midoriya.
Mm-hmm.
Where he
Deku.
has that power, but then it's like Brandon, and this might spoil a little bit for you, but whatever. But like the further it gets into it, he's like he can't use his arms anymore, or else because like he gained all of this, but his bones aren't.
Yeah, I saw that part where they're like going through the fighting, and he just completely broke his arms, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he like can't do anything."
Yeah, like you cannot do this again.
Yeah.
And it's like it gets worse and worse. Like his bones are deteriorating each time he does it. So it's like that's kind of cool too, where it's like, oh, that would suck. Like
That's similar
so
to
strong.
Black Clover, though, right? Like, that same exact thing happens in Black Clover.
Which I stopped watching it right before it got to that part. But I know what you're talking about because my brother's caught up. But yeah,
He like breaks his arms.
yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh yeah, you can never like use the sword again." And he was like, "Shit, it's kind of all I can do."
Right. It's kind of like my whole thing.
Yeah.
so, Brandon, what have you been up to, dude?
I don't know.
Good talk. Jason, what have you been up to?
Yeah. I don't
I
remember.
have no idea. I've been on
Yeah,
shrooms.
Oktoberfest. That was about it. Nothing like super cool. Not that I can think of.
Oh,
Creating new D&D character.
well, speaking of D&D, my brother started running the Waterdeep campaign, and
Okay.
it's me and 2 of his friends because he's like, hey, my friends have like hardly ever played. Can you play so they don't all die? I was like, sure. So I'm playing a war cleric. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, we're starting a new playtest campaign tomorrow. So.
I am also creating a Dungeons and Dragons character, but it's for something related to this channel.
But so yeah, 'cause I got one of those characters in the works too.
All mine are gonna be the same character because I'm gonna have to make multiple characters, or like learn how they work, or.
I have a different accent for every character I play, so
I'm excited to hear your accents.
I have been playing Gundam still because they gave it to me, so they should know it's back to me. I think Brandon played for a solid 30 minutes, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm done."
Yeah, it like took too much.
it's
It's
one of
too
those.
much.
It's one of those grind games.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
it is. I have been. My kids don't listen to this, so I've been planning a Disney trip. So that's fun. Because
Happiest place on earth.
the most expensive place on earth.
What?
Dude, it's stupid expensive.
Even with military tickets, it's still.
Yeah, we're getting military tickets and military rate
Yeah.
in February.
That
Still
shit's
more
still-
expensive than 2 years ago in July.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
It's so crazy.
After I thought about it, I was like, actually, that week is actually probably stupid packed because the saying when you win the Super Bowl is "I'm going to Disney World."
Well, when I
Literally
looked
what you
at,
said after you win the Super Bowl.
yeah, when I looked at
Everybody
it,
going there.
historically, it's been one of the slowest times to go to
Yeah.
Disney. And it's
That's where I met the Steelers. I met like a ton of people
Yeah.
on Steelers.
you've been that week and there was no one there.
Yeah, it was
But
tight.
it's like, and Kelsey and I got engaged
A lot of
and
football stuff going on there.
like that time, and there's no one there. But now I'm scared that there are going to be like thousands of people showing.
I think it might be just because Star Wars is opened.
Actually,
I read a thing where they were talking about the bar there because it was like a 3D
yeah,
tour of it or whatever, and they're like, oh, look at all these people, and then like one of the comments was like, yeah, I got to go and it's nothing like this because it's completely packed and you can't move.
Ugh.
Like
That sucks.
even though they have like a cap on like how many people can get in,
Uh-huh.
they're like,
Really?
yeah, that cap of what that is like way too many people. It's like a nightclub in Florida.
so I have heard mixed reviews about it. Like some people say that it's so crowded all the time because there's only one ride right now. Another ride opens up in December, but right now there's only one ride in Galaxy's Edge. And then like the cantinas and stuff like that.
Which I'm not even really going for the ride. Like,
No, fuck
I really
no.
give a shit less about the ride.
Yeah.
So,
I
like,
just want to be like, look at me, this Star Wars, Star Wars world.
my theory, right? And I mean, it's not theory. Everybody knows it. Disney pays more attention to the detail. So when you go to Disney, it's like you can look at literally the fence, and the fence for in Avatar World, the wood was like textured, painted. Because I went to Avatar the opening weekend,
Oh damn.
and the wood looks like it had been there for years.
Yeah.
But it's a brand new thing because Disney pays that much attention. But then you go to fucking Six Flags, right? And it's like, no, we have rides.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we don't really do shit else, but we have rides.
So like Disney is a theme park, whereas Six Flags would be an amusement park, right?
And I would even say Universal is an amusement park.
Yeah.
Like, it has a theme, but it's not, you can't
Not like
compare
Disney.
Disney and Universal
No.
as far as themes go. Rides, yes.
Yeah.
Theme-
And dude, speaking of that Avatar world, that is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
You've
Like-
been, right?
Yes, once, and I got to
It's
ride the that one main ride, the Flights of Passage or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and it
Oh,
is
dude, it's
literally
so
the
beautiful.
coolest fucking ride. So kind of on that note, what?
Brandon hasn't ridden it yet.
Ugh,
I haven't been to Disney in like 10 years.
dude,
Dude,
it's
I just realized that when I said, "Oh, Brandon, what's your magic band gonna be?" And Brandon's like, "What's a
what's a
magic?"
magic?
And I was like, what do you mean, what's a magic band? Like, that's
Yeah,
your ticket, dude. And
It's only-
he's like,
only the last couple years.
The last time I went was, I don't even think I
After
went.
boot
Oh,
camp.
it was when Jason got out of boot camp.
Oh yeah.
Was
Yep.
when I-
So
when Brandon and I hit every single ride
yeah.
in 2007, every major ride we did in one day in
I'm never gonna
all
do it
four
again.
parks.
what?
I'm never gonna try it ever again.
That
Oh, no.
sounds so
But
dumb.
Well, we had
sprinted
we had 1 day pass to all
park.
parks.
Yeah.
One day park hopper pass, and it
Right.
was. We had 1 day left on the trip,
Damn.
so we were like, because Jason won it or something,
That's so crazy.
So
something weird like that. So then we
dead
just did
sprint.
everything. Yeah. It was dumb. Like this time, I'm just gonna walk around and smell roses and sit down and eat a fucking like drink blue milk and like eat like some random crap. Go build
I'm finding all the great alcohol spots in Disney, and I'm putting a list together for us. Like,
I ain't trying to like run from place to place.
Fuck no.
I'm gonna stroll. Smell
What were you saying, Tank? Sorry.
No, so I found, and it's not a new YouTube channel, but it's called Smarter Every Day, and this dude, he's a space mechanical engineer, like rocket mechanical engineer. His channel's fascinating, but he did this like few parts mini series on like VR, and they're developing these like haptic feedback like gloves, like Ready Player One, and it was like someone like the Flights of Passage, like how immersive, like just so you're flying one of their like beast things, Brandon, and the thing you're sitting on feels like it's breathing.
You ruined it.
No, like that didn't ruin anything. Like that's one little piece of it.
Like, that's supposed to take you by surprise.
No, that's not what takes you by surprise.
It's when it grabs by a wiener.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Well, it's like
of course.
Is this your ponytail?
Okay.
Travis said he wants VR porn, huh? So,
I mean, it exists.
Yeah, but
Google, pal.
It was like what they're doing with the with like that full immersion stuff that's really coming like I'm hoping like in the next 10 years we'll have like Ready Player One going on, and I'm so fucking pumped.
Yeah, I've done some really crazy like VR stuff. Like whenever I was working in the engineering stuff at Mississippi State, they had like full like digital worlds built, and you had like a full headset and everything where it would track like your head and your position in space, and you would basically like zero it at the very beginning, so it knew how tall you were and everything.
Right.
And you could like crawl under cars and like literally do anything, and you were like actually walking around.
They had they're finishing one of those in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Where it's...
So we were like on the beginning of that, of like testing the stuff.
So talking about themes, right, in Disney. So on D23, we didn't talk about it, but in the theme park part, they're opening multiple Marvel theme parks in Disney. First one will be Disneyland, and at the same time it opens in Disney Paris. The first ride will be at Disney Hong Kong, and the way that they're breaking it up, right? What's up?
Travis says he wants to bang a VR Jason.
You don't have to get a VR one, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we can talk later. We were putting some stuff on the table to try and bring to the network. I mean, we can just make things happen. Talking to you. What's up, buddy?
How you get hella followers right there.
Hella followers.
Travis, though. Literally just Travis.
So they have all of these Marvel outposts, right? And the theory or the theme behind it is that Tony Stark is trying to recruit new Avengers. So these are Avengers outposts.
I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's not like, hey, look, this is something that we copied from whatchamacallit, and it's here and you can go look at it.
Yeah.
It's like a new story. Like, you're not going there to be like, oh, I want to see Spider-Man and I want to see all this stuff. It's a new story being built with you in the middle of it.
It's like Galaxy's Edge is its own story.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally on the Star Wars timeline. Like, hey, this is where Galaxy's Edge is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of weird, but okay. So Tony Stark is recruiting for new Avengers. Now, I think it's an amazing theory. What I hate about it is the way that Disney is setting it up to where it's like, really, to get the full experience, you have to go to fucking Hong Kong, Japan, California, and Paris to get like this full experience, because it starts in Hong Kong and then it branches out, and each one has their own different story. It's the same story, but it's like different parts of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And the only thing Orlando is going to get is the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. And that's the only part that goes towards it for stage 1.
Right.
They haven't announced stage 2 yet, but I'm like,
Orlando is the like spoiled child though of all of the parks.
yeah, they have tons of shit, but I'm like, okay, you can take fucking Avatar, take that shit to California, okay? Bring me home, dude.
I don't care about the movie, but that ride is
amazing.
Single-handedly the coolest thing I've ever done.
That is my daughter's favorite ride.
It should be everybody's favorite ride.
It's not my favorite ride.
What? Over what?
Because I'm still a fanboy for the Tower of Terror. I'm just saying.
Right.
Oh, that goes front, back, up, down. Fascinating.
Yo, and I'm holding out reservation for Smuggler's Run, where it's.
At first, I thought that PlayStation
Falcon. No, not the PlayStation. You're in the Millennium Falcon. 4 people go in per pod, and each person has a different job to fly the Millennium Falcon. Like, so it's a different experience every time you ride.
Yeah.
That's cool. I would just hate to ride with people that I don't. I mean, it probably still ends up the same, right?
It's Disney. You're not gonna lose.
No, you can lose. Like, that's the thing. That's what people have been saying. Like, there is like a way that you do not make it.
Oh, okay. All right, hey.
But
in the middle of the ride.
I want to ride with complete strangers because
just you like start yelling.
Yell at them. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
What is your problem?
That's so bad. But if I ride with my kids, then my daughter would start crying, and then I'm like trying to handle toothpicks. I'm not a skier over here, okay? I'm not doing it. But yeah, I kind of wish that Orlando gets something. I know that we're spoiled, but shit, take Toy Story. I don't give a fuck about Toy Story World.
Yeah.
Right? Let's be serious. Disney is for grown-ups. They can afford to go to fucking Disney. Richie Rich? Fuck you. Kids can't make it for adults. Yeah, so I've just been finding out stuff and diving super deep into Star Wars.
Nice.
I don't know why. I have no idea. I started watching Star Wars Rebels this week.
Oh, yeah.
This show is actually pretty amazing.
I've started it.
It's like the Clone Wars. So I think when they started it, it was like, oh, we're going to make a kids show. Just like with the Clone Wars. And then, like, as it went on, they're like, oh, shit, the only people that actually watch this are, like...
the old Star Wars fans.
Yeah, super Star Wars fans. So it actually has, like, this super deep story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kids would not understand this.
Mm-mm.
But speaking of that, I guess that can just tie us right into our topic for the night. Let's talk about world building and some good examples of 2 different types of world building. We talked about it a little last week, but
Josh's computer took a shit, so you only caught about the last 10 seconds of the conversation.
What it smell like.
And I feel like we rushed it.
Fire.
We rushed it because that wasn't our topic.
Yeah.
But we all wanted to talk about it so much. So before we get into the 2 different types of world building, let's just quickly like go over why it means something to us. Like, so for me personally, writing a story and when I watch movies to break them down to like really understand the story and the worlds and stuff, I started studying world building to help me with my novel. And because I have to create a completely new universe for my book. So that's why I started doing it, and to help me understand movies a little bit better and stuff that goes into movies. Tank?
Yeah, I mean, I made the same decision to start writing a book. But I took a very different approach than Jason did with my book, and so it's been fun kind of comparing, because I think Jason and I have very different writing styles, and so it's cool how you can kind of end up in the same place, but take two very different paths to get there.
Yeah, Brandon, because you know a lot about world building too, but Brandon's not a writer.
Yeah, I don't know how to read.
Prerequisite to writing.
Yeah, the only reason I know is because I got like actually I don't know why. I think it's just because I have really bad ADD. To tell you the truth. Like I see something like a movie or whatever, and then I go try to learn. If I'm really interested in it, I just try to learn like a bunch about it, and I just go like read all these different like forums, what's in canon, what's not in canon, and I really enjoy that a lot of times more than the story. So like, and we talked about this like season 1, I think, of this show, of like the only reason I know a ton about characters in like Marvel and DC or whatever is because I see the character and I'm like, who is that? I look them up on Wikipedia and then I read their like Wikipedia page and I'm like, that's cool, it talked about this, and then I go into these weird backstories. It takes like world building though to be able to have that structure of a certain type, right? So I really think that's the only reason. And like playing D&D too, it's like, especially when you finish a module, like you got this much of it.
Yeah.
Like you get so little. And then I'm like, okay, now we finished the story. I'm not ruining anything. I'm going to go read about the Curse of Strahd. Like I want to go figure out about it. So then I'm like, okay, I'll watch a bunch of like podcasts and stuff of people talking about like, oh yeah, this was actually a Halloween one shot from like the 80s that no one was supposed to like, or 70s or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it wasn't supposed to be a thing. And then people liked it. So then the next year they wanted it again. And then it's a full like story now, like a full, that's what we ran for our first campaign. We ran a whole campaign basically in Curse of Strahd, and it took us forever, but they built that world through one shots basically. It was like really cool how it happened, like pretty organically. But yeah, then they built a whole country and all the lore and stuff was through like different things from these one shots. So
yeah, if you the Waterdeep Dragon Heist takes that like even to another level, because without giving too much away in case you ever get to play it, it basically gives the DM 4 different ways to tell the story, and you the player are going to play through one, and that'll probably be it. And so like you could like finish it like, oh, that was dope, let me go see what else there was, and then there's like 3 more full campaigns almost inside this one story.
Yeah. It's like that's kind of like the main reason why I like the fact that people actually do this, like take this much time into story building, because I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Or like Star Wars. I actually got called out at work a couple days ago about Star Wars. They were like, yeah, why is this color? And I was like, oh, that's because it's this lightsaber color, and this lightsaber color correlates with this, and this is how this person does XYZ. And they were like, why do you know all that? They were like, we've seen all the movies. And I was like, yeah, I just get like bored, and I start going down these weird rabbit holes of like reading all this stuff that exists on it. And I think I just find that stuff really interesting.
So before we jump too far into that, I want to go ahead and break the 2 world building styles apart, right?
Or the 2 that we're like describing.
Yeah.
Right? There's probably thousands.
The 2 styles. Yeah, the 2 styles we're describing
that we're recognizing.
And these are more generalizations, right? So like you have one large style over here and one large style over here, because there are a million different ways to skin a cat here, a million over here. We're skinning 2 million cats, okay? So
all the cats,
all the time.
I love Chinese food.
On one side, you have like a structured way, right? So you sit down and you kind of put everything together before you come up with one word of the story. Like you have this whole world built, done, ready to go. The other way is kind of the seat of your pants. Like you're like, hey, this is my character. This is the story I want to tell. And as you write, you're writing people into the story, or writing, towns or scenarios into the story. And then it's like, okay, well, that's cool. I'll kind of add this in, or I'll add that in. And you didn't really know where it was starting. You didn't know where you were going to end, or the path it was going to take when you started.
Yeah.
Now
you might know the general like story arc, but you don't know the layout of the world.
Step by step the whole way there.
Yeah, you know where your character is going to end up, and you know the story you want to tell, but you don't know the towns, you don't know the characters, for gamers, the NPC,
Right.
that are going to get you to the other side of the story arc. So Tank, you said that we have two different writing styles. Which one do you stick to? Do you create your whole world first? Or
Yeah, oh yeah. To the point, I'm very structured. To the point where, like, if I'm writing the story and I come up to a character that I hadn't previously put a lot of thought into, I'll stop writing the main story, go to my outline, and like build this character out, and then go back to my story. I did that with at least one character, if not two, in my book that I'm writing now. I knew we were coming up to this character, and I'm writing up to it, and then when we got to the character, I realized I didn't really do any thought into this character, and I stopped and I spent like an hour like going physical description and backstory. Why does he know? How does he know the main character? And once all that was done, then I went back to my book and then worked basically what I just come up with on the outline, worked it organically into my story. But I knew before I wrote it why he was there. Same thing. I built my whole world in an outline. Now I did kind of cheat a little bit on this book because my world's kind of in a bubble, and it's not a very big bubble. Because this is really designed. I'm not writing my book to be a series. Mine's kind of a one-off. It has the potential to be a series, but it's not written to be a series kind of thing.
If it was a series, it would be like the style of like, oh, you made this, and then now you're gonna build onto it.
Exactly. And so, yeah, but I'm very much. I have a whole outline that's like 3 pages long. It's all bullets. It indents, so I know exactly which. I can follow it up the indents, so I know which piece I'm talking about. And yeah, I'll stop in the middle and break out my character some more to make sure I know why he's there, what he's doing, how he got there, and then go back to my story to do it the other way.
So my style, remember I said million ways. There are 2 million ways to skin a cat. Every time, any book that I go to write, or any short story or anything, has always come from a conversation with that guy. So we'll be on the phone and we'll be like, oh yeah, wouldn't this be tight? Oh man, that would be so cool if we could do this. And there's still a Star Wars short story that Brandon wants me to write that has 2 characters, and it's like, it's super cool idea.
But it exists in someone else's world.
Yeah, it exists in someone else's world, so I want to create something that exists in the world I create. So the book that I'm writing started as that really cool idea between me and Brandon, and I was like, oh man, I can do this, and I typed up 1 chapter. Actually, I typed up 4 chapters, right? And then I looked at it, and I was like, this could really be like 1 chapter. So then I got some professional help to look at it, and some editors to go through it, and they're like, okay, we need like a full outline. So I was like, damn. So before I touched the outline, I had to start creating all of these different factions, like how things work. I don't even know how many hours just studying gangs, studying all sorts of different magic for whatever, like all types, like from Harry Potter to fucking the magicians on sci-fi, right?
Yep.
Like anything in the middle, like where it's like, oh, magic is super cool, to like magic is super, super negative, right? So I studied all of that. I had to study all of like how gangs are put together, right? Like, because I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah. I don't want to get this wrong. I don't want to get that wrong. And then it's like, okay, and Brandon will tell you, like, I'll text him at 11:30 at night. Hey, dude, what do you think if I make the world like this? And he'll respond and be like, no, we need to do it like this. Like, it needs to be changed to this. So then I had to create this whole outline, but it's still like I have pages on pages of this world, but the story is still an arc where I'm just going to write it and then bring the stuff from the world in, because I haven't developed this whole world, because I don't want to. Like, I want to set, I guess, the ground rules for this world. But my ultimate goal would be like, if I write one book, Tank could write the second book. Like a completely different character in my world, but I have no say in what you write. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm almost, after looking at it and trying to actually meet a deadline, I'm like in the middle of two worlds, because I realize if I sit by the seat of my pants, the book is going to be fan fiction at most. You know what I mean? So you have to have a little bit of structure in there, I think.
See, I even and we'll bring Brandon in some more, but I'll even go one step further. When I'm writing my outline, I'll come to a part where I know will happen in the book, and I will write like a sentence or two that I will then eventually basically copy and paste into my book. Like that's how detailed my outline ends up being. Is I know exactly what the character is going to say here. I've already come up with that line, and so when I get to that part in the book, copy and paste, it's already there. I had a funny line or whatever.
My outline says, because I know that as I write, the character becomes his own thing. You know, like each character kind of gains this personality. So when I'm like chapter 9, this is what happens in chapter 9. Like, just straight, this is what happens.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I change to this. Now I change to this. Because as I write, that character is going to take on his own personality. And then it's like, okay, if I have these lines written, it may not match the character that I've built all the way up to chapter 9. Now he says something that's totally out of character. Like, so for me, it's still a lot of, by the seat of your pants, but the world building, for the most part, I think I did after I came up with the idea. Like, I came up with an idea, I came up with my story on how to get from A to Z, and then started to put together this world. Yeah. And it's still not 100% full, because there's so many spots. And the best example I can think of, like right now, is like Star Wars, right? Like Star Wars, he knew the story he wanted to tell. He came up with some things, but then fan fiction and like, oh, who's that in the bar? Like, 3 tables back. Like, what is that species and what is their story? And like, that kind of stuff is like, because Brandon and I were talking about it, like, that's what I want to create, is like, where people are like, wait, what about that guy? Like the one who was very unassuming in chapter 3, we need to tell that story. But it leaves open spots, just like Star Wars did, to fill in the gaps with your own story.
Not everything like necessarily needs an explanation, right?
Right. Like Star Wars is
Windu having a purple lightsaber.
right.
It was never actually explained in the movies or anything, and then people are like, okay, this is lightsaber lore, this is how it works, this is why I got it, and then they're like, okay, we're writing these books, I guess we'll make that canon.
I mean, that's the way it goes, because the fans are so...
Yeah, you have to have a super passionate fan base for that.
Yeah, the fans are passionate. Thank you. The fans are passionate for Star Wars, and they wanted an explanation for an orange lightsaber. Like, oh, that's an unstable kyber crystal. Like, what? Like, why can't it just be orange like the other ones are red? Green? No, it's unstable. It's this, that, or the other. What? Like, why can't Mace Windu just have a purple one because he's black? Like, because
it's got to have a reason.
Yeah, it has to have a reason. Even though the real reason is because Samuel Jackson wanted a purple one.
Right. He just said, I want it to be purple.
Yeah, that's the real reason.
Yep.
So, Brandon, give us a little bit of insight on, as an outsider looking in, because Tank and I both have our own preference. Like as.
I guess do you feel like you can tell a difference when you consume a story? Can you feel like, oh, they knew what they had it planned out the whole time, versus, oh, I can tell that they kind of filled in as they went?
not necessarily. I can't speak too much to books because I don't actually
Well, sure.
read that.
Just whatever. Yeah.
I basically read Brent Weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and he definitely builds his fucking shit out.
Because he did the Night Angel trilogy.
Yeah, which that one I almost think he did by the seat of his pants.
You know what? I agree. And those books
But
are amazing.
The second series he did, the Lightbringer series, that series he like built out. Like he created magic types. He created how it was made. He created how to split light to be able to make magic. He created the entire world and like where things are going. Sounds actually pretty rad. Aunt Tina actually reads those. Like I in television and movies, I feel like I can to a certain extent. So like most animes and TV shows, you can tell that like in the beginning this story is going super fast and they're getting through everything, and then you just hit 7 million fillers and they're expanding the world and all that stuff because they're like, oh, we didn't know we were going to go this far. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Attack on Titan is that way. Naruto is
Holy shit,
that
Naruto.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z.
Blue
But yeah,
Dragon.
Naruto, they were like, at first they were like, oh, the 4 or 5 great kingdoms or whatever. And then they're like, oh, the land of the hidden snow by the tree under the, and you're like, what? That's not the most random shit. Like just expanding, like, oh, we're gonna go to this country out on a moving island sea turtle. And you're like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
So like you can definitely tell with stuff like that. I think it gets harder in movies and like trilogies and stuff for movies, right? Because like if you didn't know Lord of the Rings as a book, would you think those movies were completely planned of the whole world, like everything that is in the books and is in the Bible, I guess, of like Tolkien and the whole backstory of how the world came to be that we know exists? If you just saw the movies, it would be kind of difficult, in my opinion, to know that all that stuff existed, right? Or to know that he actually planned outside of that small group's voyage.
It feels to me like when I watch a movie, it's easier to point out if they planned or if they didn't plan. Because they're always trying to drop in like little shit. Like, yeah, we did plan that shit. Like, we planned that. Like, you know,
like a single movie or like a series, like a trilogy.
Like we'll take Lord of the Rings, right? Like if you just took the first one, like the way that their houses are built into the hills, like little shit like that, where it's like, you know, all these little things, like Gandalf having the fireworks that are a dragon, tying back to the Hobbit, right? Like all these little touches, I feel like I could point that out, but in a book, I think it would be a lot harder because it's a slower pace, especially when writing.
Like I feel like how people get away with it though in movies is by pretending like they planned out the little shit. Like yes, for sure, the like architecture, like noticing how different architecture is in those movies is fucking amazing, right? Especially if you're like, I've never been a fan of architecture, but like the dragon thing, like if you didn't know about the books, right? After the first movie, people loved the fireworks scene, right? They thought that was hilarious, and that's when you learn like who like Pippin is and everybody, you know, like the bard, and it's fucking hilarious. So like that's an awesome scene. What, like, I feel like other series maybe do this, is they're like, oh man, people really gravitated towards this scene. We should just say that it was like, oh, that was an Easter egg, and now it was because he fought this dragon and stuff. Tolkien definitely didn't do that, but like I feel like other series probably get away with it, and I think Star Wars is one of those series. Where because so much of it is built from fan fiction, that they're like, oh, so many fans loved this from the old ones. We're gonna pretend like this was a big thing and it was planned this time. Probably like Ray's parent.
I would say one of the biggest titles to do world building, like structured world building today, Marvel.
Yeah.
Like the MCU, is one of the most successful at structured world building today. Because if you go all the way back to Iron Man 1, Captain America's shield, like all of these little things are in Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
And it's because they know they have the budget that they're going to make, like, these 12 movies. It's the shows like Naruto where it's like, yeah, there's a Shonen Jump comic book. We're going to get 25 episodes and be fucking done.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it sells millions, and then you're like, oh, wait, never mind. How do we stretch this to over 1,000 episodes?
Right. But it was like, and I think that's kind of cheating to look at the MCU as a structured one, because they could have dropped Captain America's shield. Easter egg never came out with a Captain America movie.
Yeah, because it's structured on years of comic books.
Years of comics, yep.
Yeah.
So it's like, that would have been an Easter egg. But the way that they tie it all together, you see like there's some element of world building to the first 3 phases. Now we're getting into some weird shit, okay?
I think like basically third phase, in my opinion, is where it really shined the brightest in terms of like
everything came together.
Because they had to bring like the most random movies and tie them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like, how do you bring Spider-Man in? Which, congrats, Spider-Man is back in.
Yeah. But like,
but like, how do you bring in this character that doesn't have a movie yet? But you know, he might have one. You're in the middle of making these decisions.
Right.
So like, yeah, do it. You know, like that kind of stuff is where the genius really shines.
And and we've talked about it on the show before, but like that was the problem with DC's first crack at it, is they tried to introduce all of this stuff without giving us any of the world building behind it. We accepted all those new Marvel characters because we already had a base to put them on, whereas DC, they're just like, ooh, here's more and more characters, so that but there was like, yeah, but I don't know who they are, why they're there, I don't get it. We got a 10-minute little blurb about like he helps this random fishing village, but we have no idea why.
Yeah.
And so I that's why, and we've talked about it before, Marvel did it right, and unfortunately in DC trying to do it differently for the sake of being different, it just didn't work.
DC tried to do a seat of your pants and make it work.
Yep.
And it didn't work.
I feel like DC tried to do a seat of their pants because they thought they were going to have the funding for all the movies, right? They were basically like, Naruto style worked for Naruto. If Naruto came into it knowing they had 500 episodes, or thinking they had 500 episodes, they would have done it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Or completely different, not wrong. But DC came in thinking they were going to have that, 12 movies or whatever.
We'll make it up in later movies.
They were like, oh, we'll tell it way over here.
Right.
But they weren't good enough up front. So it was it seemed like that seat of the pants type thing, that because they were like, yeah, we'll get to it at the end, just like Naruto does, or Beckables, like all these. There's a ton of like things that show that you can do that, but like Attack on Titan, I keep going back to, but that's one that they literally had zero funding past the first season, and they're like, fuck it, we're not going to do anything, we'll just leave it as a cliffhanger, and then people funded it, and now it's this super huge thing. I feel like DC was expecting the super huge thing, so they're like, yeah, we'll just tell all these small stories, and then we'll get to it, and we'll have one Justice League movie that tell some of the story, but it's okay because we're gonna have 3 more, so like the bigger, better stuff is gonna come. And then like they just tanked and ran out of all the money, and then weren't able to hit that 500 episode or whatever.
I mean, and just because DC tanked, we're not saying that one way is better than the other way.
No, because like all those animes and stuff obviously did it really well that way.
Right.
Not just anime. Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson also said, I just write and my characters pretty much create the story for me.
Yeah. Well, even like Night Angel trilogy, like that's another like really popular like trilogy that I really think he was like, he wrote one book and that was it. And then people loved that book so much. He's like, fuck, I guess I should make a second book. Then he went and made a second book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hell, like,
The Wild was written with, like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. And then he said it was seat of his pants. Like, he's just
Yeah.
like, it's whatever. Yeah.
well, it's
But-
like I think The Matrix suffers from both. Like, I think the first movie was methodically planned out, and and the more I watch it, the more I believe that. Whereas, and then it is so well, then they kind of flew by the seat of their pants for 2 and 3, which is why it didn't feel as structured. It felt all wonky and kind of all over the place. And
Game of Thrones
yeah,
has done both.
I'm kind of terrified that the Fantastic Beast is going to fall to that side, because they were also one that was like, okay, it was initially like 2 or 3 movies, and then after the first one did really well, they were like, no, never mind, make it 5.
oof.
It's like, okay, I need to grow this somehow to make it 5. They have one of the best writers in the world writing for the movies, so probably it'll be fine. I'm just terrified that like it's gonna hit some point where you're like, what?
Yep.
What is happening? Because it was meant to be a shorter story.
Yeah.
Well, that's also one where she like developed this world really only for Europe.
Yeah.
Like really only for England.
Yeah.
Like she didn't really think of wizarding or anything outside of it. But like you were saying, Tank, like you've developed a small bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She developed a small bubble, but inside that bubble it was very, very detailed. Like everything was detailed. With Fantastic Beast, she had to create North America. Yeah. Like, how does this work? How does this tie into Hogwarts?
But how can but it has to be different, right? It can't be the same story.
But it's growing, but I feel like each world is by the seat of its pants. Like Fantastic Beast, I'm sure they'll introduce another country. How is that country gonna work with wizards and witches? Like, you'll have to create that as well. But I want to touch on Game of Thrones because I think that's like the world's biggest example of like structured versus seat of your pants, where structured was like pretty much everyone was a fan of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like he structured like Hodor, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life pops out in like season 5?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like
that's something that I'm like, do you think he actually planned that, or do you think he was just like, oh, this kind of sounds like his name, let's make this?
That was like spot on. Like that had to be planned. Like that was one of the things that had to be planned. But then after that, it's like after season 5, you're like, the writing really like.
Because it's like when it started surpassing the books,
right?
Or he could tell he was rushing it.
No,
like,
exactly. Seat of his pants.
Yeah.
But with the books, all of that was so well done. Like everything was flawless.
And I think it really comes down to the medium, right? If you're writing a book by the seat of your pants, when you're done writing it, if it sucks, you can go back and fix it, right? But when you're doing it for TV or a movie and you get done writing it, well, now you have to immediately start shooting it, and like you don't have the time to go back and realize, oh no, that was really stupid. I don't know why I did it that way. Well, it's too late now because it's already on film.
Because timelines for writing are completely different than timelines for television.
Exactly.
Yep.
In terms of our deadlines or whatever.
Yeah.
That is why we still don't have the end of Game of Thrones.
That because he's making so much money, he's like, why?
Accept HBO's ending to the Game of Thrones. I will not accept it. Like, I think that Jon kills her, but then the dragon fucking eats her, and then Jon rides the dragon out.
Butt naked.
I'm out, bro.
Butt naked.
Yeah, like fuck it, peeing on everyone. Fuck you.
I'll put your fire out.
Yeah. I'm Jon Snow, bitch. So, all right, let's give one structured, one seat of your pants, like our favorites of both. Or, actually, let's do it this way. Structured or seat of your pants, give your favorite example of world building, that style, and we'll round robin it.
Yeah, so I just mentioned mine, like the structured nature of The Matrix is fascinating to me. Like, and I've talked about it when I saw it the other day. The fact that the movie opens up and ends in the same apartment room or hotel room, whatever it is. It's something that for whatever reason I didn't catch until, I mean, I've seen that movie over 50 times and I've only just now caught it. And it's like, there's no, like, that is something that, like, he probably didn't even come up with it on the first pass when he was writing it. But, like, as he was like, oh my god, that makes, like, this whole movie's about deja vu. How can we incorporate that? And that, and it's like, he sat and came up with all these ideas way beforehand. And then whereas, like, 2 and 3, you know, he didn't have that same amount of time to put into
money,
it.
baby.
So, and I think that's why I kind of write the way I do, is because I really like the idea of being able to know exactly what I'm doing going into it. And, you know, I do like to try and make sure I keep myself open to new ideas. But like I said, what usually ends up happening is like, oh, that's a cool idea. Let me stop writing, incorporate it into the outline, and then I'll go back and add it.
All right, Brandon, what's your favorite?
I don't know. I think it's because it ties into what I did this past week. Ocean's 11.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like that movie.
What did you say? It's seat of your pants or structured?
Ocean's 11 structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like The Matrix, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 was trash. 3, it kind of came back, but there were definitely like holes in it.
Yeah.
Which 11, I watched 11 3 times in the past week.
That's awesome.
Because I kept trying to get Alex to watch it, and she would fall asleep, and I'd end up watching the whole thing. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, let's finish watching it. And then I'd watch it again. But, yeah, I had others that I was definitely going to say before Tank was, like, in the middle of talking. So I just thought about this. And I was like, you know what? Actually, that's fucking amazing. Like, they literally planned everything out. Like, and it's more so not even just the world building, but it's how it's filmed.
Yeah.
How they film the building of the world. Nothing is explained.
Right.
It just shows you. It just literally flashes and throws it in your face. It's like, you're robbing 3 casinos? It's like, yeah, these.
Now you see
What's
me.
his name on those casinos? Yeah. And then next scene.
Right. Now
like,
you see me kind of does that too.
Yeah, it's like how it's told and how it's explained to you is also like super different.
Yep.
So
I have a ton more I can keep rifling.
I was gonna say something completely different, but after hearing both of those, I will say Fight Club.
Yes.
Jeez.
Like any old Brad Pitt movie, like
Brad Pitt.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like Brad Pitt was on his shit.
Or actually, you know what? Talking about Brad Pitt, talking about Ad Astra, let me change that.
500 Days of Summer.
No. Interstellar.
I've never seen it still.
That movie is so insane.
Because it's based on like physics, right?
Essentially.
Yeah. So
But the structuring, so like when they wrote that story, when they built that world, it's so beautiful. Like Tank was saying in The Matrix, it started and ended the same way. It's literally a loop. And you're like, it blew my mind when I watched Interstellar. And the more you watch it, you're just like, this is a beautiful way to tell a story.
Fucking
like,
Inception.
that was one I was gonna say.
Inception's also great.
And they got a ton of money, and they weren't like, you know what, Inception 2.
Right.
Yeah, no, Inception
They did it right. They were like, there's the beginning, there's the end, there's everything we're gonna tell about how it's done, what they do, how many levels you can go, why,
right,
what a fucking architect is, how deep do we need to like. They do a really good job.
Inception was a beautiful way to describe a world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we all exist. Done. Like, what? Like, wait. Now you're blowing my mind. Like, these things exist? Yes, we exist. Next topic. Like, it wasn't... What I loved about Inception, they told the story, it was structured enough to let you know, like, all of these different levels, but it still told the story in one movie. Whereas you look at Lord of the Rings, you have number 1, the setup, number 2, the explanation, number 3, the end.
Yeah.
Star Wars, number
Same thing.
1 sucked, 2 sucked, 3 sucked, 4 was amazing but told before 1, 2, and 3. 9, right? Like now we're getting the end of the story. But Inception was like, hey, look, here it is, boom, done.
Right.
Here's a brilliant movie. That, you know what? You guys are right. Inception, I think, could have the best world building, like for a single shot movie.
Because it's also something that's like the idea of it, right? The idea of Inception hasn't really been done before in movie.
Mm-mm.
Never.
And like it's obviously been done in like philosophy, like it's
Right.
been written about for
Yeah.
centuries. But no one was ever like, you know what, I'm going to tackle this and I'm going to be able to explain it really well. And I'm actually going to tell a compelling story with it. And I'm going to make people believe that this is like a thing.
Yeah.
Like it's believable of like them being able to do this or whatever. So,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like the idea of being able to break them out of it by tipping them over because then when they explain about how like the inner ear but it doesn't wake you up and all that kind of stuff was fascinating. And like that was something that they could have just left it as, yeah, when we push you over it wakes you up, but they were like, oh no, here's exactly how it works scientifically, whatever. It was such a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
But it didn't take them the hour to explain it. It was like succinct. Here's like 2 lines that explains exactly how it works. And like, I get it now. I understand why that's gonna work.
That's why I hate people with PhDs.
One of the best scenes to me was when they went to the opium den.
Yeah.
And all those people were just staying asleep because they're like, it's their dream. Like
that became their reality.
Yeah, that's their reality now. And like you see them and they're like in the basement and they're all like super, super drugged out. But like in their reality,
they're good.
They're living their perfect life.
Yeah.
Or when Joseph Gordon-Levitt's teaching what's her face about like how to be an architect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was brilliant.
That could have been so difficult to explain, and how they told it was amazing.
Yeah. I'm rewatching that movie this week. I haven't watched it in a little while.
I watched it within the last year for sure.
And then just from a movie aspect, like I'm sure, and I know you guys, I think we've talked about it. The hallway scene, they built a rotating set and filmed that like for real. Like that wasn't CGI, which is like from a like movie filming perspective, it's such a fucking cool way to do that.
Because Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in it.
Yeah, dude's dope.
Because he's the real deal.
Yeah,
man.
That guy's sick.
He's amazing.
This has nothing to do with world building, but if you guys have seen Don John,
yeah, it's funny.
Oh, where he's that that Italian guy. Just
and he's dating
Scarlett Johansson. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie.
I was just kidding about 500 Days of Summer, but it is a very good like example of world building.
Just
starting, starting in one point, ending in one point, the seasons, how it's told, how the scenes are laid out to tell the story, but nothing's cohesive. Like
what's the other movie he's in with Seth Rogen?
It's called something like Best Friend or something like that.
Yeah, where he gets cancer.
50-50. It's called 50-50.
50-50, yeah. Okay, so let's just end on this note. Whether you're going seat of your pants or you're going structured, you're sure to have a hit if you hire Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Or 90s Brad Pitt.
90s Brad Pitt, but you're gonna miss out on
90s, early 2000s Brad Pitt,
Yep.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt anytime in his life.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah, like any Joseph Gordon-Levitt, early Brad Pitt,
Pre-Angelina Brad Pitt.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
No, not Christian Bale, because it was the Equilibrium not as good as Inception.
I never saw it. I saw like American Psycho, the one where he's a magician but like trying to kill Wolverine. Those are very good movies. Batman.
Equilibrium is good, but
I want to get a shout out to. We keep saying ones that are really planned out, but like a seat of your pants thing, that's amazing. It's like, look at how successful Critical Role is.
Yeah.
Literally making the story as they're talking.
Yeah.
And like,
but I think
broke records for like.
I think that goes back to the medium, and I think D&D is one of the few things that you can get away with that in its purest form.
And it's almost you have to, in my opinion.
Right.
If you plan too much, you're gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
I watched a ton of videos like within the past couple weeks for no apparent reason of how to build worlds in D&D, and everybody was like, if you build the whole world out, it's gonna crumble immediately.
Yeah. You're forced.
That's the same for a book, right? Like it goes back to mediums, right? D&D, you guys are saying, like, you know, if you structure it out for D&D, it's not going to be that entertaining. But also, if you write a book and you try to tell all of this, you're going to lose your audience.
Yeah.
You may have all of this. The Dark Crystal. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Tank. But the Dark Crystal, he wrote all of this. Right. So it's very, very well put together. But he only tells you like that. Yeah. Like where my finger's at.
Yeah, a little piece of it.
So all of it is still there. And that's what keeps it together. But like in too many books, do they write all of this? And then it's like, oh, I'm going to tell you everything.
Right.
And it loses me.
Story is trash.
Yeah, it's like it loses interest. You just want to tell your character's arc and introduce the story. So I think the median really does have a huge, huge play on, you know, like what you're doing.
Yep.
Because I can tell a whole bunch in a movie or a Game of Thrones, right? And you're going to stick around.
Yeah.
But in a book, you only have so much interest. So, hey, guys, why don't Tank tell them where to find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me all over the internet at The Caped Critic. Thank you guys for tuning in. This was kind of a long one, but I had a lot of fun with this one, so hope you guys enjoyed it.
Brandon, tell them where to find you. Oh, wait, no. I'll tell them where to find me. You guys can find me at Houdini0333 on Instagram and Twitter. Hey, seriously, though, we hope that you guys learned something tonight. If you didn't know anything about world building or what went into it, I hope that this helps you. If you guys like these type of shows, let us know. If you guys want to see more beatdowns, let us know. If you want to see more explanations on filmmaking, storytelling, character creation, things like this, we may do character creation next week because that ties into something that we're all doing right now.
Yep. That actually is a good one.
But yeah, you guys can find me at Houdini0333. Brandon, tell them where to find you.
If you really love world building and literature, you can find me on A Likewise, which is literally just a dating site for people who love books. You like books. I don't know why it would be called A Likewise.
That's weird.
It makes no sense. It's not even funny. Like, what kind of dating app names aren't funny? That was the first one that came up for book lovers.
At the library, so they don't have to talk to each other. It's like, no words. No words.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'll read it out loud.
Pop-up books.
Strictly books. I'm reading an erotic one. I mean, exotic one.
Why did our outro turn into an ASMR session? It's so weird.
I think I'm gonna get a mic soon, like a little like Tank's like globe thing, and I'm gonna do that.
Hey guys.
It makes you feel cool when you can pull the mic down though, and just feel like
have anything.
Yeah, well, mine's over here. I don't have my new setup up. But anyway, hey, you guys can find us at TheNerdsFromWork.com. You can find all of us at Nerds From Work on Instagram and Twitter. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube at The Nerds From Work. Hey, and from all of us here at the workplace, peace.